Welcome to season 2 of the Knights Open Circuit IEEE UCF's official podcast. My name is Juan Battaglia.
And I'm Julia Lampert. We'll be your host for season 2 of the show.
On today's episode, we have our chair, Alex Parady, our service director, Natalia Botero, our disinfection robot lead, Taylor Barnes, and our marketing director, Mohammad Gudaro. They each have experience working in a variety of subfields of electrical engineering throughout their internships.
Alex interned at Tesla Motors this past summer. Natalia is currently doing a co-op at Florida Municipal Power Agency. Taylor did an internship with Deke Local during the summer, and Mohammed is doing a co-op at Lockheed Martin as part of the CWAP program. Today, they will discuss these experiences and their roles more in depth and give their advice on how you can secure an internship for yourself. Welcome to the show, everyone.
Great to be here.
Thank you
for having us.
All right, so to start off, tell us about yourselves, your name, your background, and your area of study.
I think Taylor should go first.
Yeah, sure. I'll get the ball rolling. So my name is Taylor Barnes. I have been with IEEE for a long time now. I've been here since I was a freshman, and I'm graduating this August. I'm not originally from around here. I'm from Mississippi, and I am a computer engineering student. I've been computer engineering the whole way. Briefly looked at a minor in the interdisciplinary robotic studies field. I've since dropped that. Now I'm just solo computer engineering.
So humble, one of the founding fathers of IEEE.
Yeah, I've held a couple of different officer positions, and now I'm doing one of the project leadership positions with IEEE.
I guess I could go next. Yeah, so as Julia said, my name's Alex. Currently serving in my second year as the chair president for the organization. Definitely been a lot of fun. It's been great to see over the last year, even through the pandemic, the organization grow so much, and such a big community kind of coalesce around ambitious ideas and innovative projects, as well as even the podcasts, really everything. It's been really cool to see us grow that, and people to feel like they have a place that they can call their home. Kind of like more on the personal side, studying EE as well as a CS minor. Probably going to either graduate next fall or next spring. Kind of a little up in the air still, but definitely it's been a good run even through the pandemic. So looking forward to continuing to do that. Am I supposed to also talk about like my internship at all at this point, or is it just like brief intros?
Yeah, just tell them where you interned to.
Yeah. So last year I was interning with NEI Electrical Power Engineering. Did that for like a full year starting in summer 2020. And then this past summer I was working as a service tooling engineer at Tesla Motors. So I basically functioned with looking into the electrical tooling to service all the vehicle platforms. Worked a lot with some of the newest vehicles that are out there. So definitely really cool. Definitely we'll talk a little bit more about that, but want to hear about from Natalia and Mohammed as well.
I guess I'll go next. So my name is Mohammad Gadar. I'm also the current marketing chair for IEEE UCF, and I am a senior at UCF, majoring in electrical engineering. I co-opted at Collins Aerospace from January to July of this year in Cedar Rapids, Iowa, and now I'm doing the CWAP program at Lockheed Martin. Yep.
So I guess it's my turn, right?
Yeah.
So my name is Natalia. I'm the service chair at UCF IEEE, and I'm a junior majoring in electrical engineering. I've been interning at FMPA, a power agency, since May of this year until December of this year as well. And it's been great being the service chair at IEEE UCF. I've met a lot of great students and people, and I've been able to get more inspired into what I'm doing.
We'd love to see it.
So I think it's for the three of you guys, I think except Alex, it's your first internship. Is that correct? Or one of these has been your first internship?
Yeah.
Is that right?
That is correct.
Okay. So for Alex, then this is more geared towards Alex. But how do you think compared to NEI, which was your first internship, how has Tesla sort of expanded your view on your career field beyond what you knew from NEI?
Yeah, I mean that's a good question. Obviously, I definitely could see a lot of similarities as well as a lot of differences. Like NEI is obviously a lot smaller company, much more like wider range of tasks that the interns get assigned to because again, there's less people working there, so you're given a lot more responsibility. And it's definitely got, it's actually interesting. I think the thing that's the most similar is kind of that startup vibe between the two of them. Tesla somehow, even as it's like continued to grow and really continues to kind of maintain the like humbleness and the like go-getter attitude that startups have. I definitely like really appreciated getting to like see that from the interior because like, I think a lot of people hear about that a lot. It was really cool to kind of get that perspective and see a lot of, where a lot of the really cool and I mean, yeah, I don't know. I've always like kind of idolized the company. So getting to see a lot where this is like really cool processes have happened and see the people that make them happen was really, really an interesting perspective. It definitely, I think the technical side of what I was doing was definitely more advanced on the NEI part of what I've done in my career so far. But I do think kind of like the perspective that Tesla gave me was definitely very valuable. I do think like kind of perspective for anyone that's interested in working at like either of these types of companies, like a very large one or smaller one. I think both bring really good experience. It's good to kind of see how you can improve yourself at a bigger company because there's a lot of, previous experience that people have had and a lot of, ground that has been covered in the past. But then also if you're getting to the ground floor at a startup, I think that's also really valuable. You do get, a lot more trial by fire in that case. There's not really that path laid out in front of you. And I think that was more or less kind of what I was getting there. But yeah, I think again, yeah, the counterbalance was really good to kind of see. I think it helped me grow a lot.
Yeah, you had like a big company vibe, and then like you had the power that was a little bit of a smaller company, right?
Yeah, no, for sure. No, it's definitely interesting. And Juan, don't sell yourself short. I know that you've had your fair amount of interesting experiences as well within
Me?
industry. Yeah, of course.
I've had some internships as well, but and I for sure I've learned a lot from either one. That's why I was asking. It's just because from one internship to another, I felt like I my perspective really changed a lot. Like I was just really excited on the first one. You're like, oh my God, I'm getting an internship. Like, oh my God. And then the next one, it's like, you already did this. And now it's like, you kind of look for what you can learn that you haven't already learned, like beyond that excitement. And you kind of, the reality kind of sets in and you start like noticing things about the industry and about what it's like to actually work somewhere. And yeah, I don't know. I was just wondering if everybody else had that same experience or like if you did, Alex.
Yeah, I do want to hear everybody else's perspective too. But one thing I do want to say as well, like I think that is like the value of an internship, kind of what you just said, and like being able to kind of test the waters on those experiences. Like uh, it's not you signing, a 3-year contract or a long-term commitment. Like these roles are more or less to like test the water, get those experiences, and also like see what you like or dislike. I mean, I think that's where like a lot of the value comes. Like almost less of like is this what I want to do? More of like, well, now I know what I don't like. Like I can more guide my decisions in the future now.
Super valuable. Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah, I would love to hear
I
everybody else's
definitely
thoughts.
remember
Yeah.
having, I remember having that exact same feeling of like, oh yes, I'm finally getting an internship. Well, once I got my my offer letter from Deep Local, so it's definitely interesting to hear that like you're saying that goes away on the second one, and I think sort of what you're alluding to, and I bet Muhammad can probably also speak to this. Is
Yeah.
I've heard that after you get that first internship and you get to put that line on your resume, it gets way easier to find a job after that.
Yeah, when I was interviewing with Lockheed, they were practically begging me to come work for them. They were like, "Would you come please work for us?" I was like, "Sure, yeah."
Who wouldn't? Who wouldn't beg
Yeah.
for you?
Yeah, it was
The
totally
legend.
different compared to the first round of, interviews for that first internship.
Oh yeah, it's crazy how you go from like being like terrible, like the scum, and then everybody's like, oh,
Yeah.
offer, like it changes really quick.
The number of rejected applications I have still sitting in my emails.
The number of times I went to an interview and it didn't go well, just it pains me. You go to an interview and it doesn't feel right at all. It just feels horrible. You
Oh
gotta sit
man.
there.
No, literally. I haven't even had an internship yet. Like I have one lined up for this coming summer, but it's like I definitely have that excitement of the first internship that you guys are talking about. But like I'm also really nervous because I'm scared that it's gonna like change my view of engineering in general,
No, listen to
Probably
Juan.
will.
Be excited. Be excited.
I'm deterring people. My bad.
Julia, where's your internship?
It's at a naval nuclear laboratory in Pittsburgh.
Oh, let's go.
Oh, really? Yeah, that's where I work too over the summer.
No way, NNL.
Not
in Pittsburgh.
at the company, but like in the city of
Oh,
Pittsburgh.
okay, that's cool.
Natalia, what did you feel like you learned from like career-wise from your internship?
Yeah, I think just learning in general. I think for me, that was what I was looking for and what I look for if I get a future internship, being able to learn something new and being able to just put that as an experience of mine. And I think that's what I try to do every time I go, just learn as much as I can and learn. It's not only learning the actual thing that you're doing, it's learning the vocabulary and like everything that goes in it and the communication between people that's so required for engineers everywhere. And so for me, that's the most important thing, just to, learning as much as I can.
Just as much as you guys can each say without breaking your contracts, can you guys tell us what you worked on specifically?
Do I need to pull up my contract here to see?
I don't know,
know.
but they definitely made me sign an NDA. To an extent.
Deep Local is pretty chill, I think. They're owned by a parent company that's less chill, but they're not going to see this. So I was hired specifically for a certain project that Deep Local's doing. Deep Local is involved in like anywhere between 10 and 30 projects at any given time. And one ongoing project that they've had for years now is called Gumband, which is sort of a software as a service platform that they've been running for a long time. And they've recently been integrating a hardware component into that. It's basically a little microcontroller that they built in-house, and they have been developing firmware for a while, but they wanted to bring somebody in over the summer to help like get the firmware up to like 99% capabilities instead of the like 70% that it was already at. And so my job was to do that. My job was to work on the firmware for this embedded systems device.
Okay.
It was a lot of bug fixing at first, and then a lot of implementing actual libraries later on.
Look at these technical experiences carrying over for you, Taylor.
Yeah, definitely the technical things that I learned, like I was learning new things every day from a technical side that made me, I remember specifically having the thought while I was working, like, when I get back to school, things are going to be so easy for me because my brain has just been expanded. But really, that's not the most important thing, like learning all the technical stuff. It's way less important than just like learning what it's like to be an engineer day to day. And learning what it's like to be at a company with other engineers specifically, because like I interact with engineers every day. As a UCF engineering student, I interact with IEEE people every day, but that's a much different proposition than actually interacting with people who have been in the field working full time for years. And it's a different proposition to working with people who are not in the engineering field. Like my company isn't just an engineering company. There are lots of lots of designers, and of course, lots of people who are just running admin for the company that I got to meet every single day. And it's really cool to see like the entire workplace experience going on.
To see the entire like orchestra playing.
Exactly. Yeah. It's something that like I could imagine in my head, but after actually doing it for a summer, it's something that I feel much more comfortable talking about, and something that I feel much more comfortable like getting back into next summer or next fall or whenever I end up working full time again.
Yeah, it's definitely an interesting perspective. I definitely echo what Taylor said.
Can you say anything about Tesla?
Sure,
Or-
yeah. I was gonna let this go first, but yeah, sure, I could talk. Yeah, so they do want me to be like mildly like not talk too much, but I'll give as much as I can. That's like okay. Yeah, so I did basically like the main goal within my position was to more or less figure out where roadblocks were within servicing all the vehicle platforms for Tesla. So that really went for like any of the cars. Like if there was ever a point where for, the newer vehicles or for the older cars, the service workers found like issues that were going to, cause, maybe it caused like a 2-week delay for vehicles, or it causes inconveniences for customers. That would basically be where we would kind of step in and try to find solutions for. Sometimes it was easy. Sometimes it's just like buy a product off the shelf that helps assist in alleviating that issue and that roadblock. Other times it's like, all right, this is a very like custom issue that only is really an issue for Tesla vehicles. So we need to engineer tools to kind of solve those. So I was working with a team of, it was a lot of mechanicals, but I also had a fellow like electrical engineering intern. And then my mentor, who's also electrical engineer, was basically guiding me through like how to really approach all these issues. I think I got a really good experience on kind of like understanding project management flow a bit better, which is already like portraying well into this year because I'm leading one of the projects now for IEEE. But yeah, I mean, it's definitely pretty exciting. And there's definitely, it's definitely important roles because in the case, let's say, for example, like with like the semi truck, like there's about to be like, I don't know, like around like maybe 10 to 20 of those on the road. So it's like if one of those is out of commission for like 2 weeks because something goes wrong and they can't fix it, then it's like, one, it looks really bad on the company, and two, it's going to cost them a lot of money. So it's, it was definitely exciting kind of being able to, one, be very close to the vehicles, and secondly, be able to kind of touch a lot of the vehicles, like be able to get experience with all the different platforms was definitely very cool. And again, as I said earlier, like Tesla's definitely a company that is very, out there in the media as well as kind of like out there in the engineering space. So it was really funny being able to see the inner workings and be able to touch so many different fields within it.
Natalia, do you want to talk about what you worked in?
So, sorry. So I work with a team of 7, which is the engineering department there at FMPA, and I've done several things. I've done something called mapping, which is like the distribution map, which we do in GIS and AutoCAD, and it's mainly used for. So we work with different utilities all throughout Florida. They call them members, and so what they try to do is help the members just in the everyday work. A lot of them are just small cities that need a lot of help, and one of the help we give to them is the mapping part. So the linemen could have the distribution map, and they could see it and have a better view of what they have. We also do some modeling in Cape and Windmill, which I'm learning a little more about because I didn't know it before. And we do like power system studies through it for coordination. So like if there's an outage, they only get like a group of people without power, not a lot of people. So they call it coordination. And that's what the modeling is for. Sometimes we don't have the model as part. And so we just, let's say, get relay information, and I will put that into an Excel sheet and see the graphs. And through that, they can see if they need capacitor banks or what they need if they don't have a model. I've also worked with standards, which also work, so standards for utilities there's one called PRC-19, and it's like a study that I've done similarly. You get stuff from the generation plan, all the numbers from the generation plan, and you also do it through Excel to see the different graphs to make sure like the voltage and the limiters are up to date, and it's not going to cause like a big outage all throughout the state. Something like that happened to 2003, I think, where like something small created an outage in Ohio, and then it was all over the eastern states, and that's why they created the standard. And one of the standards is PRC-19, and I worked on that as well.
That's cool that you have your hands in something so wide-reaching.
Yeah, it's pretty cool. I love learning about it. I was so scared when they gave me the task, because it seemed like another world to me. I've never even heard or seen of it. So I was really nervous about starting that one. That one was the one that like really hit me the most, because I didn't know. And when I saw it, it seemed really intense, but I was really glad that I was able to see it and sort of understand it and do it.
I'm such a nerd. Hearing you talk about power systems, I'm getting like so excited over here.
Natalia, I definitely remember having a couple of situations where I was handed work that like I looked at it and said, I have no idea what's going on here. Like I've never seen this before.
Here.
And my question was always like, why did they even hire me for this?
Yeah.
No, I did. So this is something that like I've thought of a bit. Mohammed, I do also want to give you the floor in a second here as well, but kind of the idea, I think one of the most important things about like university that prepares you for, working in industry is that like ability to critically think and deduce situations. Like it's way less of like, I mean, obviously you need to know like basic fundamentals of like physics, but and et cetera. But it really is that ability to just deduce a situation that's really important. Because as Natalia and Taylor both just said, like a lot, I mean, I've also felt this as well. Like it's overwhelming when you first get into a role that you like have no clue what the industry is really like. And it could definitely be challenging, but I think what like kind of sets you apart is your ability to just not give up and continue trying.
Yeah, I agree.
Yes.
Mohammed, do you want to like tell us about what
Yeah.
you're doing at CWeb?
I want to talk about my Collins Aerospace experience first. Yeah.
All right.
So Collins Aerospace focuses on aerostructures, avionics, interiors, mechanical systems, mission systems, and power and controls. I was within the commercial avionics business unit. So I worked in this massive avionics displays plant. It would manufacture displays that would go in the cockpit of planes. They would also build the displays there and test the displays there. So in my first week, I basically shadowed all the technicians. I saw how all these displays were manufactured, built, and tested. I also got the chance to automate a lot of the test equipment to basically automatically do some of these tests. So they had these manual inspection tests for LCDs. I automated like oscilloscopes and DMMs to basically automatically do these tests. That was one of the cool things that I did at this internship. And I also did some 3D printing. I made fixtures for these LCDs, like voltage guards and stuff. And I also got to design some test cables on Visio. I made wiring schematics and stuff. It was a pretty nice hands-on experience. And at Lockheed, it's all virtual, so it's totally different. I basically work with documentation. There's no hands-on lab equipment or programming. So it's a pretty big difference compared to Collins Aerospace.
And you spent like a good chunk of time in Collins, right? You spent like almost 7 months.
Yeah, almost 7 months. It was like a spring summer co-op, so it started in January of this year and finished in July in Cedar Rapids, Iowa.
From like what you said, it sounds like you did almost the exact same thing that I was doing, but I did it at Lockheed like over the summer.
Mm-hmm.
But you seem like you got to do a little bit more since you had a bit more time there.
Yeah, basically, yeah.
That's cool. Was it exciting to work on something that is going like in the cockpit and stuff like that?
Yeah, it's definitely a pretty cool experience, knowing that these displays like help people like fly across the world. Thousands of people fly every day in airplanes, and knowing that I contributed and did something to that, it's a pretty cool experience.
Oh, you worked in commercial displays, like for commercial
Yeah,
aircraft?
commercial displays. So all the displays that go in like commercial aircraft.
Mhm.
Yeah.
One question I have for both you and Juan, that I'm like interested in hearing about. So, like I personally like only really worked in like the electrical industry. Like both of my roles have been pretty focused on like electrical engineering companies. What is it kind of like working as an electrical engineer and a company that is like aerospace, where clearly like EEs are definitely the minority in those groups. I'm curious, kind of like how I don't know. I want to see more like the dichotomy that is there. Like, do you feel like you're more or less the odd man out, or do you feel like you are kind of um you feel more special because there's not as many of you, so it's like there's more responsibility coming your way, or what is overall kind of your guys' takeaways?
Yeah, I think EEs are definitely not the minority. There's actually a ton of EEs in the aerospace industry. There are a ton at Collins Aerospace. There are a ton of software, electrical, and mechanical. I think there are actually less aerospace majors at Collins Aerospace. I saw a lot of systems, electrical, software. Yeah,
Yeah, I definitely didn't feel like the odd man out at
yeah,
all, especially because you're on a team of, at least me, I was on a team of electrical engineers because the project that we were doing was like all electrical stuff. So I didn't really, I guess I didn't get like a full feel for like the composition of the company within my team. I'm sure there's like, I don't know, I really don't know if there's more like aerospace and mechanical than there are like electrical, but I definitely know there's a lot of electrical work that needs to get done. So I don't think you're gonna feel like there's nothing for you to do. Even though these like the airplanes are flying, it's a lot of electronics that go into making it fly for sure.
yeah. There's a lot of electronics, PCB design, FPGA work, testing, troubleshooting PCBs, power and controls. There's definitely a lot of varying electrical work you can do in the aerospace industry.
Dope. No, I appreciate you guys kind of getting my perspective a little bit better on it, because yeah, I don't have any really frame of reference.
Did you like did you like make the mechanical and aerospace kids in like the Tesla feel weird because they were in an electrical company?
Now someone needs to design how the car looks.
One tidbit that I heard from actually from a mechanical engineer over the summer is every company, like not every company, but like way more companies than just the standard technological oriented companies you might think of, need engineers. Like engineers are needed everywhere. And when engineers are needed everywhere, then like electrical engineers always have a place to go.
So I know for three of you guys, it was your first internship this summer. Do you have anything that that helped you get the position? Like, was it your grades? Was it projects? Or like, what was it?
Yeah, definitely project experience. They want to see that. And I also had some undergraduate research that I did at FSEC, Florida Solar Energy Center. They definitely want to see you being involved like in clubs and projects, doing all sorts of extracurriculars. I think that's what definitely helped me get my first internship.
Yeah, I would say some experience too. I had some AutoCAD experience prior to this because I did work before at an engineering consultant's office. It was a small office in Miami, and I was an assistant. But through that work, I was able to learn AutoCAD at the end because I was there for a couple of years. So I believe that's what helped me a lot.
I actually asked in my exit interview with Deep Local. I tried not to be too on the nose about it, but I wanted to ask them what made them hire me, because I sort of stuck out a little bit among the other interns, particularly not being from around the Pittsburgh area where I was working. Sort of what they told me was mostly that the job opening that they had, like the project that they wanted an intern for, matched up very closely with my skill set from what I had been learning at UCF. So I think that's probably just a pretty lucky case. In a more broad case, the things that I would like recommend to people would be, as Muhammad said, projects that are relevant to your major are Like that's the thing that any recruiter will tell you is the most important. And speaking of recruiters, another thing that's super important is getting that face-to-face contact with people from the company, because it's way easier to write somebody off and not actually look at their resume before throwing it in the trash if they just email you, as opposed to meeting somebody at a career fair, or having a contact like through IEEE or through just other people that you know.
You met somebody from Deep Local?
I'm sorry, I don't understand your question.
Like you said like getting that face-to-face contact is a lot easier when you're to like get people to recruit you. So did you like meet somebody then from Deep Local? Because I thought
No, I actually didn't. I really think I just got really lucky with my offer from Duke Local.
oh okay.
So did you apply online for that internship?
I did,
No, okay.
and
Rapid
I will
applies.
say my experience like applying to places online with no prior contact versus my experience applying to places after I had already made some initial contact. I I ended up getting the internship with Deep Local despite not having prior contact with them, but I had a much higher rate of getting an interview with people after face-to-face contact.
Right.
Yeah, one thing I've also noticed, and this is actually how I got my role within Tesla, but like going to like their career events that they do is a big way to get like in the door, because I believe recruiters do normally go in um and so it's specific to like university kind of hosted events. Like if you do register for these events and you send your resume in those registration groups, like that's more or less for a good reason. Like they will go through and like look through those more often, because it shows that you have like a very active interest in the company. And that was how they reached out to me from Tesla. Like I went to an info session they had last year. Actually skipped out on embedded systems class. Sorry, Avatar, but very very worthy skip. But yeah, they reached out to me from just having been registered, and they were looking through resumes on Handshake at that point. So like what Taylor's saying, like doing mass applies is good. I think you could play the algorithms for those resume readers, but in reality, like if you want a recruiter to see what you actually have, because I mean, I definitely see a lot, and also this has been me a lot in the past too. Like people will have like very legit experience on their resume, but the algorithms just like completely cast out their resume, and you just get rejection offers, rejection letters. So there's definitely a way to like kind of do like a little bit of gamesmanship for it, and obviously career fairs and again going to info sessions I think are very valuable in that.
You know, interestingly, the one thing that you asked about when you were giving examples that none of the four of us mentioned is good grades. I think that's worth talking about, because and I'm not a recruiter, so I'm not an expert on this, but what it seems like from my experience is most companies will have like a cutoff where they say like, okay, we want you to have a GPA here or higher, but if you meet the cutoff, they don't care what it is. If it's a 3.2, that's the same as a 4.0. So if you have like a decent GPA, but you're not knocking on the door of 3.9, don't sweat it.
Here, definitely
Good to hear.
agree.
Yeah, I think projects and involvement definitely matter way more than your GPA.
Yeah, I think that like even when you were saying that, I was thinking like, oh yeah, but grad school is probably the exception to that. But even then, no, I've heard. I mean, they probably do have like slightly higher barrier to entry on the GPA, but even then, I've heard more often than not, like if you have a bunch of experience, even if it's not an industry, like that is valued so much more. Like, yeah, I mean, I think yeah, that really is kind of the lay of the land.
Natalia,
Yes.
did you did you go on what you think helped you get your internship?
Yeah, I did. I mentioned that I had some experience with AutoCAD.
Oh yeah, you're right. Okay.
Yeah. So I think I do recommend, let's say, if you're trying to go into specific place, maybe look up what they're looking for, and let's say they need you to have some CAPE experience or something like that. Maybe it's a good idea to do a project or learn how to use it, and then you can put it on your resume. That way, you have better chances to probably get it.
Yeah. And for a long time, for at least for me, it seemed like companies almost want you to have experience in order to like get experience, so it was kind of tough initially. I think that's a lot of people's kind of like how do you say, like, critiques or complaints, is that it's tough to get that first opportunity, that first internship, that first job, because you don't really have the experience yet. But then once you have one, then it becomes a little bit easier because people see that you have had experience and you know how to work.
Yeah, and I don't think they expect you to be an expert. At least you have an idea on how to use a program and how to use it. Then the initiative it's what counts. I think.
The way I see it, there are two sides to it. There's the human side and there's the sort of corporate side. What Juan's talking about is the corporate side, where like they get so many applications, they want to take the most qualified applicants, obviously, and so the people who are less qualified, who have maybe never had an internship before, sort of get shuffled out, even though they're looking to get experience with these internships. Whereas what Natalia is talking about is the human side, where if you take the actual engineers who are going to be working with these applicants, they actually wouldn't mind working with somebody who has no experience because they're going to get experience on the job. That's the way it is, whether you're highly qualified or if you've never had an internship before. You're going to come into the internship not knowing everything you need to know for the actual job you're doing. And so it's tough when you don't have like that human element really present in the screening process, which is why it's nice to work for some of these smaller companies. Like Alex was talking about, his work with NEI is a lot different than his work with Tesla. And myself, I worked at a semi-startup. So from the very beginning, like I didn't have to go through rigmarole of screening interviews and like virtual interviews or anything like that. I just immediately met with the person who was going to be my boss, and he knew that I wasn't necessarily already an expert in everything, but he trusted that like with what he knew about me, I would be able to learn.
Yeah.
Sorry, go ahead.
Oh, I was just gonna say, I remember in my interview for this upcoming summer for that internship, they kept asking me if I knew how to do things, and I was like, no, but I'm willing to learn it.
Yes.
I think that's what got me the internship.
Yeah, definitely being enthusiastic in your interview and showing that willingness to learn is definitely going to help you and set you apart from other candidates.
Yeah, I definitely agree with that. I mean, I definitely kind of echo this within what we do with IEEE on our projects. It's like, I mean, experience is great, and we always love to have people that already have all the knowledge and can then portray that on others. But if you're not really interested in the project or don't really like want to impart knowledge to others, and like I'd much rather have like a freshman on a team that is like super interested and like really motivated and can put a lot of time into something, rather than somebody who thinks they're like above the project. Like I think the biggest issue is like, again, that barrier to entry. Like it's harder to get in the door if you don't have experience, but I personally like drive a lot more. And quick IEEE plug, if you need some of that intro experience, we have projects and stuff come out. But if you're not even interested in IEEE, like I think research and different like tutoring stuff is very beneficial to kind of get that intro experience without working in industry. Like I think getting involved within school is super important.
Check the link in the description for the IEEE info.
Hop in the disc.
Hop in one of these projects, please.
We need people. We have cool stuff going on.
I think one thing that maybe some people would want to hear about is sort of what were the biggest challenges of each internship, whether it was going to a new place or being virtual or an actual task that you had to do. What was each of your guys' biggest obstacle that you overcame? And we can go in reverse order from last time. So I think
I don't think anyone remembers what that is.
Juan, how about you tell us a little bit about yours, bro?
about mine.
Your big
Okay.
challenges, right? Yeah.
My biggest challenge, well, I would say being virtual, but that's like the easy one. That was the biggest challenge was being
Wow.
virtual, and not really having that face to face and like kind of feeling like a little disconnected at times.
Mhm.
Especially in this my second one with Lockheed because we didn't meet as often. Like we when I was at NASA, we met every single day, and then Lockheed we didn't really do that. So that was it felt more distant. But another big obstacle would be like sort of just uh kind of like getting started, like getting into that routine and
Yeah.
doing everything like you would if you were actually in the office and being an engineer there. When I finally got to go to Fort Worth, which is where my Lockheed internship was based out of, and I got to be there, it almost like it was almost like an aha moment in a little bit in a way because you stepped in and it was like, oh, I understand how people are getting this work done in here. Like they're all here together. They got like all their stuff here. Like they got their labs and everything. I'm like, oh, okay, that makes sense. Like everybody's working together, and you didn't really get that from being at home. So yeah, that was the biggest obstacle. I wish I had another one because like soon, not everybody's gonna be virtual, so like this won't be really that relevant anymore. But
I mean, I still think that I mean companies will most likely still try to have some implementation of that, especially for people that like are maybe like don't want to relocate. Like I think remote work will still be a relevant concept.
mhm. I guess we'll see. We're
I hear
living
what you're
in
saying about
unprecedented
being
times.
being glad to work in the actual environment though. When I was first hired by Deep Local, I initially had some misgivings about going off to an unfamiliar place. I've never lived in the north before. I've lived my entire life, here in the good old South, and going up to Pittsburgh for the entire summer, where I knew no one, was kind of scary. And I was also like leaving responsibilities behind in Orlando. But now that I've done it, I absolutely would not trade it for anything. It was so important to be able to work in that environment where like my coworkers are within line of sight constantly, uh, because that just helped me like get to understand the atmosphere of the company. Besides just like as a personal thing, I think a lot of people also feel this. It's a lot easier to motivate yourself to work when you're there.
Definitely agree.
Yeah, same here. I was definitely, really excited going to work every day at Collins Aerospace because I knew I was going there in person, working in the labs, working with my coworkers. Not really the same experience at Lockheed.
Mhm.
Yeah, I also worked in person and it was definitely better just interacting with people and, talking to them, asking them questions if you have any. It's much better.
I mean, I think we've even seen that like over this last year. I mean, that was when we tried to do a lot of like in-person technical stuff within IEEE, and I mean, I think that is why like Natalia, I think that's how we got you to come in and be involved within IEEE too. Like having the experiences where it's like you see the community around you and you're working together on projects. I think that's like definitely, as kind of all you guys just said, very motivating.
Yeah, it is. It is. I love seeing like people that are like just as interested and have the motivation. Like, it makes you feel like, okay, maybe I could be the same, and it inspires you to go for it.
For sure. Natalia or Mohammed, like, what do you think, like, to go back to the question, what do you think your
Right.
like biggest kind of like hurdle was
Yeah.
within your internship?
I think what I mentioned this before, just kind of getting a project and being like, okay, you're going to do this, and then sort of seeing it and being like, oh gosh, am I going to do this right? Can I even do this? How do I start? So many questions, or sort of like insecurity that takes over, that first instant that you see something that you've never seen. Definitely was for me. But what's awesome about that is that you get to see how you handle it, right? Like, and you mentioned that before, like not giving up, just being like, okay, sort of like grounding yourself and being like, okay, how do I start? What do I have to do? Seeing the other work, right? Because for me, it was something that they had done one of them before, and so I was just checking it out, seeing what I can learn from it, asking questions, a lot of questions. Don't be shy to ask questions.
Sure.
And getting it done felt really good. Felt like, okay, I could do this. So that was definitely one. Another one was there they have every Monday they have like a meeting where you talk about what you're doing that week, and it's every Monday, and you have the 7 engineers there who are very experienced, and and it's kind of nerve-wracking at first because you're like the intern, and just to talk in front of everybody there about what you're doing, you want to use the right words and all of that, so it's a little intimidating at first, but like I said, seeing yourself do it over and over just makes you feel more confident.
I kind of felt the same way that you did about the like being like them giving you responsibility on a project that you've never seen before and like trusting you to do it. Like I had the same experience when I was at NASA. It was like, oh, you guys are trusting me with this, like me.
Intimidating, right?
Like, you guys want me to do this. Like I'm also used to people being like, you're not good enough, like you're not gonna get this job, like every interview, every like application just rejected, and then all of a sudden it's like, oh yeah, shoot, here, like come work here. I'm like already like, oh okay, you guys want me to come, and then they're like, oh, and do this, and I'm like, me, you want me?
I mean, a part of me is saying like, oh, actually, I totally get now why all these companies rejected me. But if they wanted me to do something this important,
Let's say you guys, yourselves short. You guys are awesome.
my biggest hurdle in my internship was very similar to Natalia. It was just like when I would be assigned work that had like technical aspects that I had never done before, my fight or flight would kick in. Like I've never done this before. I don't know how to do this, and there's something so like intimidating about having to say, even to like a totally cool supervisor who's totally willing to answer all of my questions, how do I do this? It's intimidating to ask that question because like it sort of makes you wonder like, what's my purpose here if I don't know how to do the work that I'm assigned to do. And so I spent a whole lot of time on Stack Overflow, just Googling how do I do this, and that sort of makes you feel insecure when you have to do something like that. But the thing that really restored my confidence whenever I was feeling insecure like that is when I would be around the meeting table and I would look over at my supervisor's laptop and he would have 12 times as many Stack Overflow tabs as I had open.
Yeah.
You
So
look
that-
over and he's on Chegg.
Yeah, that feeling of like, I don't know how to do this. Let me just Google it. That apparently does not go away.
For
Yeah,
sure.
same here. I did a lot of Googling for C code at my internship.
Yeah, I think we're all really learning at every stage of our lives. So it's like you can't be thinking that, there's something that you can learn. If you put your mind to it, you can learn it.
One
Yeah.
thing that was, oh my bad, go ahead.
Briefly, I was just gonna say, I think the one negative mindset would be like if you think you know everything, like it's always continue learning.
One thing that I do want to say also, like that I didn't really mention, when at least in my time in Lockheed, everything was so proprietary, and like everything that you were using, all the everything, like it that you couldn't just like look it up on Google. So I didn't really have that anymore that I didn't in like my previous internship. So I would have to you would just like all you had was like this team server full of files, and you would have to look through all of it until you found like the tutorial that like taught you how to use this. And even when you found that tutorial, it wasn't really like, that easy to read. Or you would have to wait for your manager to, get off his meetings and then like ask him or ask somebody else. And that was probably, actually, if I think about it, that's probably like the biggest hurdle, because since I wasn't in person, it was all virtual. It was even tougher to ask those questions. And even, because like I said, you don't have Google and you don't have like these resources that you had before. So yeah, that was my biggest hurdle. I don't know if Mohammed, did you feel like that at all with Collins? Do they have like all proprietary stuff?
They did too. They had a lot of documentation and manuals for like these displays and test equipment. I had to kind of go through and read all of it on my own and figure out how to use that equipment. One of my biggest challenges at Collins was definitely in my first week. I didn't know anyone. I don't know how anything worked there. I don't know what these displays did, and had to kind of figure all this stuff out. There was so much stuff just thrown at me. I had to kind of just push through and figure it out. I think that was definitely the hardest part of that internship, that first like 2 weeks of just figuring everything out and kind of understanding how everything works.
Yeah, there were so many systems at Lockheed, like so many stuff. Just
That's
I think
something that I would recommend to any college student. Try to develop a taste for getting thrown into things. Like try to enjoy getting just totally dropped into a situation where you have to figure everything out on your own.
comfortable with the discomfort.
Yeah.
like the disinfection robot.
We have a podcast just talking about that, Taylor, at some point. Graduation podcast. So I think a few of the things that I think were pretty big hurdles for me. I think definitely kind of echoing what Mohammed said, like that beginning at big companies is definitely it can be interesting, especially when you're in person and like you're around a bunch of people that you've never seen before. But yeah, again, I think to also echo what Taylor said, like being comfortable with being in those difficult situations is honestly awesome. Like, I mean, those are the experiences that I always remember the most, is like, oh, remember like when I was just like so uncomfortable, like on my first day at work and like I didn't know anyone. Like those are always the ones that like I always think back to. I'm like, oh yeah, first day of work. It's so exciting. And so it's not like the benign, like I've done this a million times. It's like, no, this is like either the first time or it's like the one time I've done something like that. Definitely, I think when it came to Tesla, yeah, I remember my first day. I was like fucking up, like when I walked in the door, like I was I think I had parked like between like two lines out front, and I was like, somebody was yelling at me. I was like, oh no. And then I got in there and some dude at IT was like not too happy at me either. I'm like, oh no, everyone here sucks. But no, I mean, honestly, the environment there was great. I think it does just kind of I mean, obviously not all companies are like that, but I got to really get to know a lot of really cool people while I was there. It definitely was very fast paced. I definitely did feel like overwhelmed the first few weeks. And I think it's similar to what you guys were saying. Like there's a lot of stuff you kind of have to really speed up into that you maybe have like not learned in school or haven't had the experience with. So I do think that was definitely, again, exciting, but also overwhelming. And yeah, also I definitely thank my mentor a lot, like before I left too, because he definitely put up with me like messing up a lot. But I think that was a factor of me always being like very excited for what I was doing, but sometimes I'd get a little bit over excited and like mess up a process, and I'm like, okay, I need to chill out. I need to go back and actually like do this correctly. Like this is not like a test case. Like people actually rely on like what's done.
Yeah, speaking of like messing up, in my first week, I actually broke this really expensive avionics cable. But they were actually okay with. They were like, "Oh, it breaks off," and I was like, and so that kind of helped me. You know, I was like, "Oh man, I'm gonna get fired," but they were like, "No, it's fine."
Yeah,
There
that's
was one time
thing.
I was certain that I had bricked like an expensive piece of hardware that like it wasn't just like expensive, it was also something that they had in very short supply. And so I was like, oh no, how am I gonna tell people about this? Thankfully, I did not end up bringing it, but it
Oh,
took me like 2 days to bring it back from the dead.
that's actually one thing that I was really surprised at when I was interning is how many times like something really expensive just gets broken and they're like, oh, it's okay, like happens. And I'm
Yeah,
like
yeah,
that's
stuff breaks
six
like every
grand.
day. Yeah.
Wow.
It's like government
And
money,
and I
bro.
love it because the engineer's
Yeah.
attitude is like, that's not my money.
Yeah, true. The finance people are coming in like, no, no.
Luckily, they were on the other side of the office from me, so I didn't have to
Yeah.
hear their cries of agony.
Oh, you
That's
just
actually like an interesting thing as well that I want to like briefly talk about too. Like, company, like kind of what Taylor just said. Like, companies really are. There's so many different kind of subsections of companies and more or less like segregation of kind of like where different types of workers kind of work. So one thing I found very interesting, like Tesla does offer like kind of like times each quarter where you can kind of work in different roles. Like I worked briefly with some of the like actual like supply distribution side of Tesla, and then I also got to go to the factories at times, and then I was also in headquarters where a lot of the software engineers were. And then my main role was working a lot with mechanics. So it's like there's definitely different kind of mindsets across companies like that, especially when they're very large and somewhat disconnected in that sense. It was very interesting to kind of see the perspective that maybe a software engineer has compared to like a factory worker. Like it's just very just so opposed. Like um, I'm I'm not saying like one mindset is necessarily better than the other, but I think it is important, in my opinion, to kind of have an understanding of like those differences. And I think this is something that Elon probably does a lot too. I mean, he obviously goes to the factory line and is talking with like, hey, what is like the bottleneck in the situation here? Like, how can we improve processes? And then obviously he's also working with like the AI teams and uh, getting that diversity of thought is really important for. And I always say this about IEEE as well, but getting as many different viewpoints is really important to get your best idea forward. I think that's really that's the best way you get like a good average perspective and you average out all the good ideas so you get a really good approach to things.
Yeah, I had the
yeah,
same experience here as well. I collaborated with industrial engineers, software engineers, mechanical engineers, and also work with technicians as well.
I'm
oh,
gonna switch gears a little bit and
Yeah, run it up.
move towards more like advice for like getting internships. So did you guys go to career fairs, internship fairs? Did you just reach out to people, like email people that you know that are in the industry? Like what do you guys do to get there?
Well, I applied online to internships and I also went to the career fair last year, but I didn't get any like opportunities through the career fair. I actually got my internship with Collins through applying online. But I would definitely recommend the career fair because you can definitely practice talking to recruiters, practicing your pitch, speaking about your projects, your experience. It's definitely a good experience to just practice with the recruiters. So I would totally recommend that.
Yeah, I had the same experience too. Like I also did some career fairs and I didn't get it through there. But yeah, I did practice, like Mohammed said as well, which is useful, like getting sort of comfortable, being uncomfortable. And then yeah, I also applied online to FMPA, which was on Handshake. I applied to a bunch of different ones, and that one just happened to reply back or contact me back. So always just be on the lookout, I would say, to what's out there and apply for as much as you can. That way you'll get the experience. I'd say sometimes you try to focus on just specific ones that you want to do, but maybe if it's your first time, try to apply as even if it's something small or maybe not exactly what you were expecting, because it's still going to be useful for what you will learn, and then hopefully in the future you can get some what you're expecting or what you want.
and you might
I
even
totally
find
agree
something.
with Natalia. Cast a wide net if it's your first time looking for an internship. Like it's easy to be sort of picky if you don't know the lay of the land. Like, okay, I I feel confident in my resume. I make good grades. I've done cool projects. Let me apply for something that I want. I want to stay in the Orlando area. I want to have a job that is related to my field. And then you end up with 5 applications that you send out, and you get 5 rejections. And so it's better to cast a wider net, compromise on some of those things, and that way, like if you apply to 100 places and you don't get an interview back with any of them, then probably more your fault than
Play the
100
algorithm.
places.
Play the algorithm.
Yeah, just by just by probability, the more places you apply, the better off you'll be. That being said, and like I've already said, I don't necessarily recommend just going out to like online applications. And I did a bunch of that, and I got a couple of responses back. But really, you're going to be best served with real connections that you already have. I know it's kind of a cliche to say like having connections is everything, but it is. If you have connections and you really want an internship, then take advantage of them. So something that I've sort of struggled with is the idea of like, if I have a connection that like that's sort of unfair, and it's sort of like I would be getting an interview based on something besides my own merits. And really, that's not the reality of it at all. Like, if you have connections and you take advantage of them, that doesn't mean that you're getting anything. Like, it doesn't mean you're getting any special treatment or anything. It really just means that like you're taking advantage of a system that already is kind of stacked against you. Like, it sounds kind of cynical to say, but if you're a qualified applicant, that doesn't guarantee you an interview. Like, these companies get so many qualified applicants, they can't interview everyone, they can't hire everyone. So sometimes you have to like rely on things other than just the fact that you're qualified. If you want to rely on connections through like people that you've met in college, or through people that you've met through career fairs, or people that you met through professional organizations like IEEE UCF, then that's a totally valid way to go out and chase that internship.
Damn, Taylor took a lot of the things I was gonna say, but I do think, yeah, I think honestly, if you're looking for the get rich quick way, it's definitely knowing people is for sure a very beneficial way to kind of circumnavigate those algorithms that are going to push you out. Like companies more often than not, like if you know someone in HR, you know someone that works in the company, like that is a much easier way to get a role, especially if you are very qualified. Definitely one of the important things is like, yeah, playing those algorithms, like go and try to put your resume through some of these like automated readers, because sometimes you don't even know, but like you might have something in there that just like messes up their reading format, and it just can't even read your resume at all. So stuff like that's definitely beneficial. Also gaining experience, like coming out to some of the, like the pro dev events that we have, or as well as like career services and other organizations that can assist you with kind of this approach to the in like the side of getting into industry. Also, yeah, getting like personal interactions with people, very important. Yeah, also, I mean, getting yourself out there, like continuing to garner more experience is really crucial, because again, you want to be able to talk about something in the interview. Like even if you get in the door, but you can't like talk about the experiences, then you're not going to end up getting that offer. I think showing your very quantitative impact is definitely crucial in that sense, and also putting that on your resume. I really think the final thing is like trying your best not to give up on it. It's definitely daunting at times. Like I know we've all kind of echoed this, but we've all gotten our fair amount of rejection letters, and that could be very condescending, and you feel like you don't have a really path forward. But I think just don't give up. Continue to try to put yourself out there, and again, if you keep showing that good effort, eventually the opportunities will rise.
Okay.
You covered a lot. It was good.
Let me get your best go-getter quote from each of you, and we'll wrap it up.
Lightning round.
Okay.
Go-getter quote.
Yeah.
Uh,
Alex, you go first.
sure,
Alphabetical.
sure. Yeah, alphabetical. Never stop grinding. Always try to innovate and continue to be ambitious. That's really what stands out the most. So yeah.
Okay. Mohammed, alphabetical.
Yeah, I guess even if you fail, even if you fall down, just get back up and just keep pushing forward. Yeah, that's it.
Yeah, I think I would say something around the same lines, like don't give up, believe in yourself. There's always going to be times where you're more insecure and you might think that, you're not going to be able to do it, but you have to believe in yourself. And like Muhammad said, you have to get up and keep trying, Don't think that because you don't know or you feel that you can't do it, you can't. You have to believe in yourself. And sometimes that's like the internal talk that you just have to give yourself in order to just keep going. So don't give up.
Young Taylor.
Are you thinking?
Everyone's life is on a different pace. Just because you see a lot of other people who are maybe further along than you, maybe they have an internship and you don't, maybe they've had 6 internships and you've only had 1, don't panic. You have plenty of time. Try to enjoy your college experience while you have the time.
Definitely.
Well
All
said,
right.
Taylor.
All right, guys. Thank you guys for being part of this.
Thank you.
Thanks.
It's been fun.
Season 2.
Yay.